Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where, as I'm sure you know, tickets for Black Panther went on sale Monday night. Now, if you didn't know, you don't have to necessarily panic because, for instance, here in New York City, there are still plenty of tickets available for like Thursday and Friday night shows, which had me a little bit concerned. But then this morning, here comes this headline that on Fandango, Black Panther ticket sales are outpacing Civil War in the first 24 hours. That's a pretty nice headline. And you know, Disney's working very hard to make sure that Black Panther has an amazing opening weekend. Headlines like this, putting the tickets on sale very far in advance, although that's the norm for MCU movies. And also really working hard to get the Black Panther name out there and share his legacy as a comic book character. Something they really haven't done, I don't believe, ever for a comic book character, and if they have, not for quite some time. For instance, you might have seen the featurette where they were talking about the history of Black Panther in the comics, Marvel themselves. I mean, we all talk about that stuff when these movies come out, but Marvel rarely includes that in their advertising. But anyway, I think that for the most part, when you put tickets on sale so far in advance, there isn't always a huge rush right out of the gate. I believe it was a little bit easy to get Civil War tickets as well, as I recall. The only thing that I've seen sell out like that was Star Wars: The Last Jedi. We'll see what happens with the upcoming Star Wars films, but that was one instance where you really did need to be on the ball as soon as ticket sales became available. But so anyway, we don't know if Black Panther will open at the same level as Civil War. It might be outpacing it in the first 24 hours because of extreme pent-up demand. And also, you know, with the Black community really embracing this movie. And I think I've talked to a lot of people about it, and a lot of people are excited about it. A lot of people of all different ethnicities, you know, from my own private polling, think it looks really, really good. Now, Civil War opened at 179. I think that's almost impossible for Black Panther to hit in February, but you know, we'll see how it's looking as we get closer to the release date. But I want to give you some perspective here. So the biggest February opening of all time is Deadpool with 132 million, and then the second place goes to 50 Shades of Grey, the first film, with 85. That's a huge disparity between those, you know, between first and second place. So Black Panther should probably be able to open with Deadpool numbers. That was a huge hit. It was a must-see movie for a lot of people. Although Black Panther is a lot more family friendly, and even though families went to see Deadpool, you'll have a bigger factor of that with Black Panther. I think particularly in the Black community, a lot of people wanting to support that film. You know, just like with Wonder Woman, you know, a lot of women and people in the LGBT community heading out to the theater. So we'll see. I would expect it to do somewhere around 132, and it's going to have a wide appeal because when it comes to Black audiences, you know, for instance, the biggest hits coming out of quote unquote Black film are like Kevin Hart movies. His biggest opening is 41 million for Ride Along, and then Straight Outta Compton, for instance, opened with 60 million. But I think this could play more like a Fast and Furious movie. The biggest Fast and Furious movie opening to date is Furious 7 with 147, although of course that had the Paul Walker factor, his tragic passing. And then the last one, Fate of the Furious, the 8th film, opened at 98. And Wonder Woman, by the way, also, you know, representing a certain demographic for the first time on screen in a certain manner, that opened at 103. Because Black Panther is a Marvel movie, though, I could potentially see it doing better than Wonder Woman, so I'd probably put it somewhere around that Deadpool number. But I'm curious, first of all, where do you think Black Panther is going to open? Do you think it's going to play wide, you know, to a number of demographics? And also, do you have your tickets? And when you bought your tickets, how many seats were still available in the theater? Was it hard for you to get them? All right, so that's the first story of the day. Now, speaking of Wonder Woman, the second story I want to talk about is poor Gal Gadot, who is really working hard to keep her career going. And I think she had to take a little bit of a loss here, but a win in the financial column by signing a deal with Revlon to be one of, you know, the new face of Revlon. They're calling her a Revlon ambassador, a brand ambassador, which I guess gives a little bit more prestige to it. But still, I don't know if I would have advised her to take this deal. Now, on the plus side, lots of money, you know, they pay a lot for these brand deals, so that's very nice for her. And it also keeps her in the public eye because Lord knows she ain't signing any movie deals. She has like one or two here, but you know, they're moving along very slowly. They didn't really make headlines. The projects aren't particularly exciting. She's not the lead. And so I think that's not so great. So this makes people not forget about Gal Gadot. They're like, oh yeah, at least I saw her on the side of a bus or in a magazine promoting Revlon. All right, so anyway, on the negative side, it keeps the focus on her looks rather than her as a whole package. And I think Gal Gadot has a wonderful personality, and she seems like an incredibly kind person. And so I think it's unfortunate to just keep the focus on her looks. And it also underscores, by the way, that she can't get any other movie roles. You're like, why isn't she making any movies if every time you see her? That's the downside of seeing her in Revlon ads. And then also, unfortunately, it puts her in league with the likes of Halle Berry. Now, all due respect to Halle Berry, who is certainly a household name, but she has the image of not deserving her Oscar win. You know, whenever Halle Berry is going to be to star in a movie, you know, sometimes people, you know, the reaction goes from not particularly excited to, oh noes, that ruins the movie, right? And Gal Gadot is in danger of having that same image already, with a number of people saying she doesn't deserve any praise for Wonder Woman, which I think is very unfair, but, you know, that feeling is out there, that sentiment is out there, so why run toward the Halle Berry image, right? Why put yourself, again, in league with Halle Berry? Now, some of you pointed out, a lot of actresses do beauty campaigns. But right now, again, I don't want to keep I think the focus on Gal Gadot's looks is a problem, especially because she still has that actress turned model image, which isn't helping her either. And this is just, you know, again, it's an emphasis on the looks. It's an emphasis on the model aspect of her. Now, I know a number of you probably right now are writing, she can't act. We'll get to that. Also, I want to point out, though, first, that a lot of established actresses who, you know, who are at the level that either Gal Gadot currently is or should be striving for, while they do have brand deals, they're with designer brands. For instance, both Jennifer Lawrence and Charlize Theron are with Dior. But as Jason Batista tweeted me, if she never did anything else but play Wonder Woman, that would still be something to be proud of. And I totally agree. And I think that it's looking more and more like that's going to be the case. And hopefully, the DCEU and Patty Jenkins don't mess up Wonder Woman too. I think that considering how her career is shaping up, or actually not shaping up, Gal Gadot, I hope, is more aggressive in protecting Wonder Woman, so we don't have any more instances like what happened to the way the character was depicted in Justice League, because this seems to be her only avenue. Now, if I were her agent, I would realize that she is very talented. I think she's talented, but she's very limited. She can really only play Gal Gadot. I think Saturday Night Live utilized her very well, and I think she did well with comedy. So I think her management, you know, her agent and her manager, her whole team, should be looking for some kind of comedy, be it a romantic comedy or maybe an action comedy like Spy, something like that. What's Jason Statham doing? You know, I don't know. Jason Statham is a real hit or miss, but something along those lines. I would put her a little bit in the same category as Harrison Ford or Angelina Jolie, and that both of those actors are also very one note, and also are, I think, very well known for one specific role. Although Angelina Jolie has really kind of moved into Maleficent territory at this point, and hardly works. But when she was really big, you know, Angelina Jolie was more or less playing Angelina Jolie in whatever movie she was in. And I think the same, to some degree, can be said for Harrison Ford. So I think the only thing keeping Gal Gadot from being at that level is her accent, which of course really was helpful for Wonder Woman, but I think it's difficult for her to appear in other films, not only because most roles wouldn't call for an accent, but it just makes her seem more and more like it's just Wonder Woman in the movie. But I think there's a chance she might not be able to lose it, so it's just something she's going to have to work with. All right, so finally, we have another actress to talk about today, Millie Bobby Brown. Now, I think it's pretty clear that for a while now, she's been trying to pull a Justin Timberlake with Stranger Things, and that she wants to be the first to separate from the group. Usually when you have like a group success, only one, or, you know, really just one person can succeed from it. And so I think that Millie Bobby Brown wants to make sure that that's her. You know, I mean, as I tweeted on Sunday, she didn't arrive with the rest of the cast at the Golden Globes. Everybody else came together except for Millie Bobby Brown. Some of you said, oh, maybe something just happened. You know, maybe her management team told her to come alone. But, you know, it's in her best interest, I think, to come across as very likable, a team player, not a diva. I know some of you said, oh, you can't have a diva. Anybody can have a diva moment, right? So I think that if it's somebody else's idea, she and her, you know, if her parents are helping her out, have to protect her image. Because Finn Wolfhard, he has a lot of momentum with it, and he came with the group. And so I think, and also I think the Stranger Things cast, their photo got a lot more coverage on Sunday night than anything of Millie Bobby Brown. But I do think that she's very talented. I love her as Eleven. And she has landed her first big solo gig. She's going to play Sherlock Holmes' little sister. But Sherlock Holmes will be nowhere to be seen, because this is a series of movies that Legendaries, well, they're hoping will be a series. They're going to start with one. It's based on a series of books, apparently, about Enola Holmes solving her own mysteries. Now, I think this is a huge mistake. The first reason is good luck competing with BBC's Sherlock, which is still not only fresh in fans' minds, but had a very unique take on Enola Holmes. So that's how most people are going to think of the character, or at least those who are interested in a Sherlock Holmes movie. I mean, maybe a lot of people will just be interested in Millie Bobby Brown movie, but will they be interested in her solving mysteries? I don't know if it's a match with her fandom either. The number two is, even though the character is canon, in the literature, Sherlock Holmes does have a sister, Enola Holmes, this still feels like trying to gender bend Sherlock Holmes. Like Millie Bobby Brown is really playing the female Sherlock Holmes, right? And again, who would want to compete with Benedict Cumberbatch's recent take on the character? I don't see why she just can't play a new female detective that has nothing to do with Sherlock Holmes. Again, I know she's in a rush to strike out first, and so, and it might have lit a fire under her. She's like, oh, Finn Wolfhard's coming up strong. And speaking of it, Sophia Lillis was fabulous there, and Millie Bobby Brown might be like, maybe Sophia Lillis will take my place. Sometimes there can only be one at a time. The it moment person, there's usually only one or two it people at a time, especially in the same age group, etc. But I just think that after being the focus of that horrible episode 7 in season 2 and not being at the Globes with the rest of her cast, I think she really needs to focus on being likable. And I think doing a gender-bending type role maybe isn't the way to go. I mean, hey, you know what? Everything could change once we get a look at it, and we'll see. She is actually, I believe, yes, I think she's actually British, so she has the accent down, and she does have a lot of Twitter followers, so maybe this will work out. But I think it's a little bit too risky, and I think she should look for a different project. All right, so as for the viewer question of the day, this comes from Emilio Guerra. And so yesterday I was talking about extras on the set of Aladdin, the whole browning up controversy. And I said, not just anyone can be an extra. Look what happened on Dunkirk, where you had an extra smiling and ruining a shot, and they had to digitally replace the man or fix the man's face. So Emilio saw yesterday's episode and had a question that related to that. He asked, is it hard to be an extra? Or are you saying that they can't just pick any extras because people don't take it serious, like you said with the extra in Dunkirk? I'm sorry I misunderstood, but I'm curious to know. No problem, Emilio. I think I'd be happy to clarify what goes on with extras. So it's not that it's hard to be an extra, but just like any job, you need to know how to do it. And yes, you do have to take it seriously. But for the most part, people do. So what do extras have to do? It's not just standing in the background. Extras have to be able to hit their marks consistently, not look at the camera or any of the stars while filming, right? You don't want to mess up a take. And they have to sometimes be convincing for the time period and or locale, right? Sometimes you're a fantasy extra, sometimes you're in World War II, with the Dunkirk movie, right? Or with Aladdin, sometimes you're in Agrabah, right? And so you have to be able to convey that. And a lot of times extras are asked to provide their own wardrobe. Some people are professional extras and they have all these things. And then also when they do period pieces, some people are car collectors and the studios know them and they'll call them up and ask them to bring their cars, and they drive their own car and they're fitted as an extra, etc., etc. But it's also grueling, repetitive, and often demeaning work. And I think that's something that people don't know about being an extra. For instance, extras are often held in pens because they don't want you wandering around the set. So they'll literally have you go into either a large room where you can't leave, or they'll actually have a pen, ropes up, and you have to stand within those ropes. And there's a lot of waiting on a movie set for everybody, including extras, while they have to light the scene, set it up, etc. Also, in addition to being held in a pen, you're often fed last. They feed the cast and then the crew, and then extras get fed at the very end of the mealtime. And so you have to wait. Everybody else goes and eats, and then you go up last to the catering company. And then also, you can't talk to any above-the-line talent. Some people, if you don't know what that means, when you're looking at a budget, there's above-the-line and below-the-line talent. And above-the-line talent is like the director and the cast. And then sometimes some key crew members, but then everybody else is below the line. So you really cannot talk to any actors on set. You can't talk to the director. It's really frowned upon, and it could get you fired because these people don't want to be bothered. And extras are really not seen as actors by the other people on set. It's not considered the same. So that's something that you should keep in mind. For those of you who might be interested in being an extra. So why would anyone be an extra? Because it requires a certain disposition and a willingness to do this job. Well, first of all, you get paid. So as I said, some people are professional extras. It's just what they do. And it's fun to be on a movie set, even if you can't really partake in it at the same level as other people on the set. Then also, though, SAG, if you do a couple of extra jobs, you'll get a SAG card. And I know that a lot of people feel that's a legitimate way to get a SAG card. Now, your SAG card will be legit, but I would like to warn anyone against this manner of getting a SAG card, because when you go to casting calls and they say, I'm a member of SAG, they're going to look at your resume and see nothing that would have done that. So they'll say, how did you become a SAG member? And you'll have to say, because I was an extra. And they're going to think that you're not a real actor. So that's not a good way to get a SAG card. So if you want to be an extra because you think it would be fun to be on set and you want to make the money, that's great. Have a good time. I hope you enjoy it. But if you're trying to be an actor, that's not the route to go. You don't have to be a member of SAG to get cast in a job. It's not that kind of a union situation. So if you work, you'll eventually get your SAG card if you're in a SAG production. If you have a certain amount of lines, that's the way it works. All right, so anyway, that's today's morning movie news. Thank you for your question, Emilio. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Please write down below, I think, today's top 3 stories, Emilio's viewer question, anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow, and of course, any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.